What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first segment of the ILL segment podcast and podcast dedicated to everything in Illinois athletics, heavily on Illinois football and Illinois basketball. This part of the podcast is brought to you by, it's a segment of the Coach Steve Show podcast. This is a segment, its own podcast. This is going to be about everything in Illinois athletics. This is an episode with just me, your host, Coach Steve Kachevsky. I will have, if you check out the Coach Steve Show podcast, there's other stuff on there where I'll have Brad Miller and Coach West on to discuss things about Illinois athletics. This is going to be predicated towards Illinois football, Illinois basketball, sprinkling other Illinois athletics, as well as things going on in the Big Ten Conference, which there's a bunch of things going on in conference realignment stuff. But this is the first segment. This one's going to be a little shorter. We are going to do a quick preview of Illinois football. We are almost to, our first game is going to be August 28th against Nebraska. We're going to discuss this preview. There was a lot of changes made since the COVID year ended back in the fall and the spring. We're going to discuss that real quick, and then we're just going to keep rolling. We're going to have an Illinois preview of who they're going to play and everything else. So this is the ILL podcast segment brought to you by the Coach Steve Show podcast. So let's dive into this first segment. Illinois football, to say the least, has had ups and downs. The ups have not been as up as Ohio State, everything like that. We have struggled a lot as Illinois fans have struggled. We as Illinois fans have struggled. You know, when Coach Ron Zook was around, we went to the Rose Bowl and everything like that. So we're going to go into, we have high expectations this, and by high expectations, I mean, we just want to see an upward trend. So the big change was after the year in 2020 with COVID, after his stint at Illinois, athletic director Josh Whitman fired Lovie Smith, who he brought in 5 years ago after the debacle of Illinois football, which that's a whole other podcast, a whole other segment for another time. They fired Coach Lovie Smith. His last game, I believe, they lost 28-10 against Northwestern. That brought Illinois at the time to 2-5. Lovie was out. They fired him back in December of 2020. And, Lovie's record was 17-39 at his time at Illinois, only 10-33 in the Big Ten. It was time to part ways with Lovie Smith. It was time to move on. I will say, people can say what they want about Lovie Smith, which I know I do. I was a fan of it at first, and the more it went on, just done with it. He did hold the glue together at Illinois. It was in a bad place. He helped bring it up. He was a part of decisions to build their new athletic facilities, their new center for the new locker room, all that stuff. He was a part of it. I have been there. It is fantastic. He's out. Then they hire Coach Bret Bielema. Everybody's gonna say it wrong. They hire Coach Bret Bielema, who before they hired him was different names have been thrown around. Is it Jeff Monken? Is it going to be the Illinois native of Jeff Monken? Is it going to be anybody else? Actually, just a lot of names are thrown around. Hired him. He is an Illinois native. He's going to be the 26th head coach in Illinois history. It's been around the program's around 132 years. He is from Illinois. He grew up in Prophetstown, Illinois. I believe it's more closer to Iowa. That's where he is. He's coached 24 years in college. He, in a 12-year record at the head coach of Wisconsin and Arkansas, he was a head coach, I believe. His total overall record as a head coach is 97-58, which is 62%, 0.626%. He was a head coach at Wisconsin from 2006 to 2012. He was the head coach of Wisconsin. He led them to 3 Big Ten championships from 2010 to 2012. He had 6 consecutive bowl games. His record at Wisconsin was 68-24. Then he spent 5 years as the head coach at Arkansas from 2013 to 2017. Had a couple difficult years there, but he led them to 3 consecutive bowl games. And he beat Texas in 2014 and Kansas State in 2015 in those bowl games. rough time at Arkansas, tried to build it up. And then he spent some time in the NFL. He was around Bill Belichick at the Patriots. And then he was just with the New York Giants when Illinois had hired him. He's been around a lot. He played at Iowa. He played under Hall of Famer Hayden Fry, helping Iowa with a share of the 1990 Big Ten title with Illinois, ironically. He spent 2 years as a graduate assistant. He spent 6 years as a linebackers coach at Iowa. Then he spent 2 years as the co-defensive coordinator at Kansas State under Bill Snyder. He was around when they won the 2003 Big 12 championship. Then 2 years later, he was named defensive coordinator at Wisconsin under Barry Alvarez, Hall of Famer. And then he moved up as the head coaching role at the Wisconsin Badgers in 2006 after Alvarez retired. He was in his 30s. He was in his early 30s when he was a head coach. So Illinois brings him in. They bring in a guy who has college experience. He knows recruiting. He understands how college works. He understands how the Big Ten works because he was part of Wisconsin. He played at Iowa. He helped 2 years, like I just said, at Iowa. So he understands it. This hire, when it was first initially brought up, was why a part of me was like, why hire Coach Bret Bielema when you could get these other guys that were there? Then when you look at his resume, I went back and looked at what happened at Arkansas, and you just listen to this man speak. I am sold. I am sold that he is going to turn this program around. The big thing that was talked about when they hired him with Josh Whitman, the athletic director, and him was with Lovie Smith, there was no connection with Illinois athletes and the state of Illinois. State of Illinois athletes and state of Illinois coaches and schools with Lovie Smith. Lovie didn't come to the schools to recruit. Kids were leaving the state of Illinois to go to other places. Indiana started to recruit heavily in here. Iowa started to recruit heavily. Missouri was coming up. Michigan was coming down. Minnesota was trying to come down. People were taking Illinois kids. Some were going to Florida. Some were going here. And his first day, within hours, Coach Bielema talked to the Illinois High School Association president and said, we're going to turn this around. And his assistant coach is calling coaches once or twice a month to make sure everything's going good. Like, good luck on your seasons, getting to know the whole state. He understands the state. He understands recruiting. And when you listen to him talk, he is all in on Illinois. He's from Illinois. He said growing up, he had this, as a kid, his mom found this book where he wanted to go to school. What was his goals? He said he wanted to go to the University of Illinois. He wanted to do this. Well, he ended up going to Iowa, but that's fine. He loves Illinois. He is all in. I think this is a great hire. Personally, watching the spring game, things look different. I got to go to a lineman camp and see him speak and see his assistant coaches do their thing, see him do his thing. I am sold watching Coach Bielema, watching his press conferences, and he's true to himself. He's true to who he is. He's not BSing us in these things. He is bringing Illinois back. I am pumped up for the season. Pumping up for Lovie, I think, was just because of who it was. If you're a Bears fan, you knew Lovie. You knew exactly what you were getting. A good coach, and Lovie did some good things, just didn't get to where he needed to go. I think his time in the NFL took away from college. Coach Bielema is a college coach. No offense to him at all. He is a college coach. There's nothing wrong with that. Nick Saban's a college coach. He tried the NFL. Coach Bielema was not a head coach in the NFL, but what he learned, he's bringing back. Coach Nick Saban is known as a college coach, and there's nothing wrong with that. So Coach Bielema is bringing in that experience, and he was able to keep a lot of players from Coach Lovie's time. There are 40 total seniors on this team, which is huge. And 22 of them are super seniors. So this is their, with COVID, they all got their extra year. So some of these guys are 5-year, maybe even 6-year seniors. So to come into a locker room and not lose a lot of players, he lost hardly any at all. Some just as of late in the summer have done the transfer portal. He has kept 40 seniors, 22 of super seniors. So he's having experience. And I don't care. We'll get to the records here in a second. He is to walk into this place, never coaching here, bringing them back is huge for Illinois. Huge. And I think it's the top in the Power 5 conferences. I think it's not top or something like that, like the top in the Big Ten. This is huge for Illinois. This is huge coming forward for him to come in. And he said to these kids, or to these athletes, not even kids or adults, to these athletes, this is your guys' family. I'm coming in to be a part of this. If you want me to help you steer the ship, you stay here. And he sold them. It was that first or second day they said, we're coming back. They already knew. Bringing back star linebackers, you're keeping, almost the whole offensive line. Then we lost our center to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has kept these seniors, 22 super seniors, 40 seniors total. Now his recruiting is huge, and he's getting good recruits. We'll talk about that in a different episode, because after next year, you're losing these seniors, and he's going to have to rebuild. So that's just going to prove how important recruiting is. So after this year, we're going to have some bumps in the road, but as the years here in about 2 years, we'll really know how his recruiting has done this. But I think it says something about how he is as a man, how he is as a coach, to say I brought these kids back, 40 seniors, didn't really lose anybody, just as of late, maybe to the transfer portal, which everybody is. So there's no judgment there. Established coaches and other programs are losing guys to that as well. So this says a lot to him about who he is as a man, as a coach, as a character, to keep these guys. So he's on the right path, keeping them in. And then he hired a great staff. The great staff he's hired, starting with the offensive coordinator, Coach Tony Peterson. He hired him from Appalachian State. I don't believe they ever worked together. They just knew of each other. He hired him to be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. And he was the offensive coordinator at App State last season, where they went 9-3 overall. They won the Myrtle Beach Bowl over North Texas. They averaged 452 yards in total offense, which is 26th in the nation. They averaged 264.9 rushing yards, which was 7th nationally on the season. He wants to run the football. He wants to be very balanced. He wants to be able to out-formation you. He wants to do things to put guys in situations. His coaching resume is fantastic. He had a 3-year stint coordinating an offense. He was an offensive analyst at Missouri. He had a 3-year stint at East Carolina helping with their offense from 2016 to 18. He was at Louisiana Tech 2013 to 15, Marshall 2010 to 2012. The teams he's been on, he's been a part of 13 bowl games, 7 conference championships. Then he's been part of 2 FCS national championships. From 1999 to 2006, he was a co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and then became the passing coordinator at Minnesota. The quarterback there, Brian Cupido, I hope I say his name right, had set the school's all-time passing mark. He was a co-offensive coordinator while at Minnesota from 2003 to 2005. And they averaged more than 250 yards rushing per game. They ranked 3rd in the nation and set a school record by averaging 289.2 rushing yards per game in 2003. That team averaged 273.1 yards in 2005 and 256.8 yards in 2004, which ranks 2nd and 3rd respectively in the history's program. So, he has just had great success being an assistant coach, never been a head coach, but he's been a quarterbacks coach, passing game coordinator, run game coordinator, offensive coordinator. He has been around some good offenses, around good teams. Those numbers speak for themselves. And that's not even all of them to go through everything. He went to Marshall. He spent 2 times there coaching there. During the first stint when he was at Marshall, they qualified for the postseason 8 straight times, winning FCS national titles in 1992 and 1996. And Mid-American Conference titles in both 1997 and 1998 after the school moved up to the FBS level. So, he's a great coach. He and Coach Bielema just knew each other. They've been good friends. I think they've wanted to work together before. And so Coach Peterson is going to bring a balanced offense. You look at their spring game, you're seeing double tight formations. You're seeing 2x2 formations, 3x1 formations, some wing backs. You're seeing 2 backs. You're seeing push motion. They're going under center with 1 running back in the backfield. They're doing screens. They're doing short games. They're doing all this balanced stuff. But he wants to run the football, which is great because Illinois under Lovie Smith has had about 3 different offensive coordinators. We never had an identity on offense. So hiring him is going to be fantastic because back in 2020, when you want to look at scoring, Illinois only averaged 20.13 points a game. They only scored 161. I know it was a short year, but they only scored that much. Just there wasn't a lot of stuff to be happy with Illinois in 2020. We'll just go over all of it. Illinois was 2-6 in 2020. Their record was 2-6. They only scored 161 points. They only, like I said, about 20.13 points a game, which is 112th out of 128. They gave up 279 points. Their opponents averaged 34.9 points, which was the 97th out of 128. So just not very good. It was bad. It was not a fun time to watch Illinois. And then compare, what's sad is the best year at Illinois that we've had since Coach Ron Zook was in 2019, where we went 6-7. The seventh loss was in a bowl game, went to the Red Box Bowl. I think we lost to Cal. In 2019, which, I guess record-wise was the best year, if you want to look at it that way, they were 6-7. We scored 347 points. We averaged 26.7 points a game. That's 79th. We gave up 340 points. We allowed 26.2 points a game. And so the defense got a little worse. Offense, this is what we're dealing with. And so to bring Coach Peterson in to try to change that offense, try to get us more points, try to average rushing yards, because we have to be able to run the football and be able to do those things. And you have Brandon Peters back, which we'll talk about later, but to bring him back, do all these players, and overall, so overall offense, we'll do another segment where we maybe break down the whole offense and defense. This is just overall what we're looking at the numbers. Offense wasn't great, defense wasn't great. Going into the next big hire was Coach Bret Bielema is a defensive guy. He wants to do a 3-4, but he understands that the offense around Illinois was built around an even man front, about a 4-2-5 type of thing, sometimes a 4-3, 4-4 with the Tampa 2 that Lovie Smith lived and died on. He hires Ryan Walters, who was the defensive coordinator at Missouri. And he ran the 4-2-5. So it was really nice to see Coach Bielema bring someone like him in to say, hey, we're going to work together. We're going to figure out how we're going to run this defense. When he was the defensive coordinator at Missouri, it was one of the top defenses in SEC, ranked in the top 20 in categories. So right here, top 20 in several major categories, including total defense, 14th in NCAA, third in the SEC, 312 average. And scoring defense, they were 17th in NCAA, sixth in the SEC. They averaged 19.4. And they were top 10 pass defense, 8 in passing yards allowed in NCAA. And they were second in the SEC, 179.3. He became the defensive coordinator in 2018. And they went 4-0 during that time when he took over, and they ended up winning 2018 AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Before he got to Missouri, he got there in 2015. He spent 2014 season as the cornerbacks coach, and that defense had improved when the Tigers went 10-3. He played football for Colorado from 2004 to 2008. And he started his coaching career as a student assistant at Colorado. He was working with the secondary, the corners and safeties in 2009. Spent 2 years at Arizona when he was a graduate assistant in 2010. Then he got promoted to the defensive backs coach in 2011. He went to Oklahoma as a graduate assistant to coach quarterbacks in 2012. The Sooners went 10-3. And they played in that 2013 Cotton Bowl. Then he went to North Texas, where he coached cornerbacks, and he was around for the University of North Texas's 9-4 record in his first year there. And they won the Heart of Dallas Bowl. Then we went on to Missouri and everything like that. So a great defensive coordinator. Coach Bielema is a defensive guy, but he understands offense. So he's a defensive guy. He's bringing in this guy who runs a 4-2-5. Coach Bielema likes the 3-4. They're going to marry together. When you're watching the spring game, there were times where they were in an even man front because that's what he wants to do. And then Coach Bielema, you'll see him jump into a 3-4. One thing Coach Bielema said that really sold me being a coach myself, he wants to fit what the players can do until they start getting recruits in. But even then, he said, if we get some guys, hey, you know what, this 3-4 ain't working, so we're going to do this. Hey, this 4-2-5, 4-4, 4-3 is not working. We're going to do the 3-4. We're going to do the 3-5. We're going to do whatever it takes. Offense is the same thing. They want to run the football. Coach Peterson's going to come in and try to run the football. But in a game, he said, if the passing game's there, they're going to take it. They're not going to force this. If they can't do it, they're not going to do it. So I'm really sold on that out of the coaching staff. I'm just talking about those 2 quick hires. There's a bunch of others that he's hired. And we'll get to all of them later on. The 2 I really wanted to talk about was those 2. And And they're just great hires because, like I said, looking at the numbers, it just wasn't good with the statistics with offense and defense. And yeah, so that's a quick preview of Illinois. They're doing this. They're underway. They're going to start August 28th. I think they're week 0. I think they're the very first college football game they'll be playing Nebraska, which is huge. You're opening up against a Big Ten opponent. You're opening up against a team that's looking themselves. They have been down. We have beat them over, a couple times under Lovie Smith. They're looking to beat us. They're looking to come in and give Bielema his first loss. Bielema's coming in to make a statement. This hire is a fantastic hire. Even if we don't see it right away this year, we are going to see it over time with recruiting. He is all in, bought in. I don't think this is any BS coming from him. He likes coaching in the Big Ten. He likes the Midwest. I think he truly likes being in Illinois. I think he's very excited to turn this around. I'm very excited with the numbers and success of Coach Pearson as the OC, with the success as the short, I put in quotations, career for Coach Walters as the DC, the experience from Coach Bielema. Coach Josh Whitman gave him a budget to hire these guys. They're hiring other people, nutritionists, the special team or strength and conditioning, and all this. They're hiring stuff that were not hired before. Have the walk-on program for Illinois, able to keep 40 seniors and 22 are super seniors, 5-6-year seniors. These are good things that are happening with Illinois. Not saying we're going to win the national championship this year, but that is what he is looking at. And he's bringing fun back. They're bringing an identity. This is our identity. We didn't have one under Lovie Smith. I am sorry if you're a true Lovie Smith guy. We did not have an identity under Lovie Smith. Did not have it. Now we're going to have some type of identity. We're going to try to run the football. We're going to try to be balanced. We're going to have an attacking defense, multiple defense, and when they're going to put guys in situations. It's an exciting time finally to be an Illinois football fan once again. We have not had excitement like this since the Rose Bowl, even though we did. I think we went to the Cotton Bowl and beat Baylor. I believe RG3 was on their team. Those times we have not been as excited since the Rose Bowl, really, with Jay Lehman, Ron Zook, Juice Williams, Roger Mendenhall, and all of them. This is an exciting time to be an Illinois football fan. And I don't know about you guys. It's exciting. Like I said, we're not going to win the national championship this year. I'm sorry. But I think we're going to be way more competitive. That's what I'm saying. If we can get Coach Bielema just to get us to go up, see us play better, be more consistent, play tough. We don't give up. Have a guy that's actually energetic on the sideline. They're all energetic. Have a guy like that fighting for those players. It's an exciting time to be an Illinois fan. And that's it. That's the short episode. I'm going to have this segment brought to you by the Coach Steve Show podcast. Go check all that stuff out too. Brad Miller and Coach West are going to join me on this stuff, and then we're going to discuss things in the Big Ten. Next segment, we're just going to keep moving on until we get to the first game, and then we're just going to have recaps. We're going to have previews. I'm going to have all that stuff. A lot's coming at us. A lot's coming at you guys with this stuff. I want to do this. So thank you for listening. The first episode, and it's an exciting time to be Illinois fan. Illinois, and we'll talk Illinois basketball. This is not just football. We will talk Illinois basketball, and it's an exciting time to be an Illinois basketball fan. Finally, we have something to be excited for. So thank you guys listening. Thank you so much. Go subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. The audio can be found anywhere you're listening to your podcast. Please leave a review, like, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. ILL.